Alexander III, yeah, he was Alexander Alexandrovich because also his father and predecessor had been called Alexander, was born in March 1845 and passed away in November 1894 at the early age of 49. He succeeded his assassinated father, Alexander II, in March 1881, and therefore had a rule of over 13 years. He was physically strong, some 1.9 meters or 1.93 meters long, or 6 feet 3 or 6 feet 4 inches tall, and robust. He also liked to dress simply and to speak directly. He favored peace, however, not at all costs. He was somewhat concerned about the growing military and economic might of Russia's large western neighbor, Germany, and kept a large number of troops along the Russian-German border. He, however, tried to keep his huge empire stable. He adopted so-called temporary regulations, in effect, police and military rule over much of Russia, and they remained in place throughout his rule. He rolled back some of the liberal or moderate reforms of his father and steadfastly refused to give Russia either an imperial constitution or an imperial legislature, even an appointed one. And he somewhat reduced even the Zemstvos, or the local and regional assemblies' powers. He was able to keep Russia outwardly in order during his reign, but inwardly there was a lot of discontent, and groups, populists, nihilists, radicals, even socialists and early communists kept springing up, although they risked arrest and then either a long imprisonment coupled with harsh labor, or in extreme cases deportation or then execution. In 1887, a plot was uncovered on his life, and even though no shots had been fired, no stab wounds had been made on the emperor, the very fact that these young men had plotted caused them to be executed. One of them was the later Russian and Soviet Bolshevik leader Vladimir Lenin's older brother. During Alexander's reign, Russia fought no major wars, and he was therefore styled the peacemaker, or Miratvorits in Russian. He married Princess Dagmar of Denmark, who converted from Lutheranism to Orthodoxy as a result. They had 6 children, the oldest of whom, Nicholas II, succeeded him and was the last Russian Tsar or emperor. He received basically the same kind of education as, for example, his father and grandfather had: acquaintance with French, English, and German, and military drill. He came under the influence of professor and later chief procurator of the Holy Synod, Mr. Konstantin Pobyedonostsev, who believed that all Western liberal reforms were evil and Russia had to remain conservative, traditional, and autocratic in order to remain as a stable country. He was a more patriotic and nationalist Russian than his father had been. He did, however, respect, with the exception of joining Finland's postal services with the Russian ones, the Finnish autonomy or self-government. And he actually liked, in his later years, to spend parts of his summer holidays in the city of Kotka in southeastern Finland. He did, however, try to Russify various other Russian minorities, such as Germans, Poles, Swedes, and Jews. He even authorized the pogroms or persecutions, violent persecutions of Jews. He either authorized or at least looked aside, not bothering to try to defend the Jews. The May laws of 1882 banned Jews from inhabiting rural areas and shtetls, or small villages, even within their so-called Pale of Settlement in Western Russia, and restricted their legal occupations. However, the famine of 1891 to 92, which resulted in a devastating cholera epidemic, forced Alexander III to allow the Zemstvos to help with relief. He did, however, favor Russia's continued industrialization, and the laboring classes grew to a significant social and eventually political force. He also authorized the expansion of the Russian railway system far into Asia, and the construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway was begun under his rule. After his father was assassinated, Alexander relocated his family to the Gatchina or Hatchina Palace, 20 miles or 32 kilometers south of St. Petersburg, making it his primary residence. Sometimes guarded by many soldiers, he visited or occasionally visited St. Petersburg, but he stayed even then in the Anichkov Palace, not in the Winter Palace where his father had died and where one of the assassination attempts had badly damaged the imperial family's dining room. In October 1888, the imperial train derailed in an accident in Borki. When the crash happened, the imperial family was in the dining car. Its roof collapsed, and according to a story, Alexander held its remains on his shoulders, and he suffered from a blunt trauma, which probably caused his kidney failure. In the spring of 1894, he started to feel increasingly unwell, started to lose weight, started to lose his appetite. By the time he and his wife reached Crimea, they stayed at the Mali Palace in Livadia because Alexander had already weakened so much that he could not travel any further. Recognizing that the once powerful emperor's days were ending, various imperial relatives started to descend on Livadia. And then on November the 1st, 1894, at the age of 49, Alexander died in the arms of his wife.